Hey everyone, today we're talking about how to set up and manage literacy centers. I absolutely am obsessed with literacy centers, but it hasn't always been that way because A, it takes a lot of prep work, and B, it takes a lot of knowledge of how to organize everything and make sure students are doing it properly. So when I was a new teacher, this was absolutely something I was excited about and gave up on really fast. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to set up and manage literacy centers in a way that it's not overwhelming, it's not a lengthy prep, and you can reuse everything year after year. And make sure you stay tuned until the end because I'm going to be giving you a completely free Literacy Centers resource that will help you plan, set expectations, and do everything we talked about in this video. So make sure you stay tuned for that Literacy Centers guide. Okay, so what are literacy centers? Basically, literacy centers are a way for students to work on specific literacy skills, whether they're applying what you just learned in class, their spiral practicing skills from throughout the year, or you're personalizing it to what your students need. So literacy centers allows for a really great opportunity of differentiation. So if you have students that are at a lower reading level, you can actually tailor the activities to them. But they can also be done just as a whole class review, and you can actually rotate your students through the centers while you work in small group, which allows you to have more time to really differentiate for your students who are struggling. So this is not just necessarily busy work while you're in your group, but it's a really targeted practice so that your students get extra time practicing the skills that you're learning this year. Okay, so let's talk about how to get the materials. So I'll have another video on this as far as what I put in my centers. So we're not going to focus too much on getting the materials, what to actually put in the centers and so forth. We're really going to talk about the organization and the management of the centers because you can very easily get centers from my TPT store or from lots of different TPT stores online. You can use some of the resources from your curriculum. There's lots of different opportunities to have resources. It's the organization and the putting it together that's a real struggle. So let's start by looking at how you can actually organize your centers in a really quick and easy way. So what I do is I get my center stuff all prepped. A lot of times if I have something that's reusable, like a student information page or a poster like this capitalization one, I will laminate it, and that way we can use it year after year. I like to keep a copy of every single center in a filing cabinet, and that way I can pull them out and make copies. And that way I'm not worrying about, okay, my students used all the copies that were in our group section, so I have to go back and reprint everything else from the file. I organize it in a filing cabinet, and that way I've got this paper clipped, and obviously you don't have to have pretty color printed. That's just me spending extra money for no reason. But you can paper clip this all together, and that's your capitalization center, and you can put it in like that's quarter one, and that's easy to organize. So I just pulled this out of that organizational bin for the week with a couple other centers, and I will put this with copies for all of my students if they need copies. A lot of times we will use things that they just slip into and they can write on it, and that way we don't need to use copies. But if there are any student copies, any information they need on here, if it's something that they need a little spinner for or any other tool that they need, I put it all in one folder. And it's really nice because, and you can get these on Amazon. I'll link to one in the description, or any teacher supply store. But I really like this one because it has a place to put the folders. So I can put all the materials for that center in there. And there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. You can't see them, but there's 6 total. So I can have 6 groups total. So getting them together in the beginning is super easy because I go into the filing cabinet, I pull out the ones that I want for that week, and I just slip them into each one. So since I have 6 groups, that's usually plenty to get us through the week to have 6 prepared centers because we have very limited time, and sometimes we'll only rotate twice during a day, or we'll not rotate at all. So each group will just do one activity. You'll probably also want to have some sort of tray for your students to turn in any completed work when they're done with the center. If you want to collect that, or have a folder for them to keep it in. It just really depends on if you're wanting to see the work from the centers, or if you're wanting students to take work and continue working on it at some point, or having it for some reason. For me, I just like having a completion tray, and that way when students are done with that center, it goes in the completion tray and it doesn't get stuck in here, so that the next group gets has all the blank copies in here and they're not seeing other student work. You don't want your other student work to be shoved into the folders for the next group that's there. Okay, let's talk managing the actual centers. So this has room for you to put every single student's name. You can have a little spot there, and you can rotate them through here. Now, I am lazy. If you haven't noticed from some of my past videos, I do not like to have to move that many students' names, because we're talking about like 30 some students. So what I do is, my students know what group color they are, and I just got index cards, super cheap and fast. So if I put the yellow in there, then that means this group. So every student who is a yellow is going to do this activity to start. And then you can just do that for every single one. And then when you're actually done with your centers, what you can do is you can take these cards and you can just rotate. So I put the yellow on the bottom, and then I move everything up one. And I don't move the file, because that still has all of the centers information in there, and therefore I don't have to re-prep or change the centers. I'm just telling my students, hey, tomorrow you're going to that one, or next you're going to that one. So that makes it really easy to manage, and my students all know their colors. If you have lower grade levels, it might be very helpful to have the names there. But I can tell you, for third grade and up especially, which is what I do centers with, this absolutely is the fastest way to go. If your students are keeping folders, or you want them to keep some sort of log of what they've done, you can use this Literacy Center log, where they write down the activity that they've done for each day. And this can be helpful for students to keep track of, but it's totally optional. Okay, head over to the link in the description and grab this guide, because in addition to what I showed you in the video with how I set up my literacy centers, there's way more information here about setting expectations, some other options for managing groups and centers that don't require you to have a chart like this, some ways that are free or simple. And this also just gives you a good general overview of how I set up and manage my centers. Definitely stay tuned for the next video, where I talk about what's actually in my centers and where you can find materials for your centers. So make sure you subscribe. And if this video has not come out yet, I will, you'll wait for next week, but otherwise I'll link to it right here at the end, so that you can go straight into that video and watch what I actually put in my literacy centers. All right, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what your biggest struggle is with literacy centers, and if I haven't answered it in these two videos, I'm going to do another video in a couple of months. All right, thanks so much.